In this video, I'd really like to speak a bit about what it looks like to nurture peer friendships for your children. What does it look like for them to connect with other kids? What does it look like for them to connect with kind of people who are part of their kind of social groupings and social structures? And that can be difficult right now because their access to these children looks very different. For instance, a natural part of the school day was being with their friends and playing, go to the park and playing. This has sort of been removed. and now I hear children who will talk about missing school because school was actually a place where they felt a sense of connection. And so this idea of connecting with peers might look a little different in this time of COVID, but there are some aspects of that that might look very similar as well. So maybe before we kind of go there, let's talk a little bit about kind of the theoretical notions behind this. And for you as a parent to kind of keep these kinds of things in mind, especially for younger kids, because what I find with parents is that sometimes they actually struggle giving their kids kind of the freedom and accepting the necessity of friendships with people outside the family and with what would be their peers. You may remember bringing your child to the nursery at church for the first time and what it was like to leave them and kind of feel that lack of control and that lack of connection. A lot of times this kind of develops over the course of time as the child is developing in maturity. But my encouragement to you would be to kind of think about, what is it like for you to actually encourage the connection to kids outside of the family unit? Does it create anxiety for you? Does it create tensions for you? Maybe that's not the issue for you, but I find this is the case for many folks. And part of this is connected to this notion of what we refer to with younger kids, but it repeats throughout their life, this idea of separation and individuation. In other words, what it means is that your kids are going to go through cycles in their life, starting at about 2, by the way, when they first start to toddle, where they're going to move away from you. Right? When they're 2, that's the first time that they can start to walk and start to run. And in fact, that's actually kind of anxiety provoking. As much as we like it that they're mobile now, mobility creates anxiety sometimes for us. So what can take place is the parent becomes either overly permissive, they're not really paying that much attention, which is anxiety provoking for the child, or their own anxieties sort of stir up and they become a little too controlling, which makes the kid try to pull away a little bit more. That cycle will play out again and again and again. And it's this movement kind of away and toward and away. And you'll see this cycle probably play out about 3 times in your kid's development. It'll play out in that early childhood stage, it'll play out about mid-childhood, and it'll play out for sure when they become teens. And so the reason I'm kind of talking about this is that their need is to connect with others. Your need is to help them find healthy, safe ways to connect with others and to develop those friendships in that manner. So my encouragement to you today is, what does it look like for your child, right? What do they need? Well, one way that you can determine what that might be is to ask them, right? It sounds kind of simple, but sometimes we forget to ask our kids really kind of how they're feeling about the state of their friendships, or maybe the loss of these friendships because they're having to stay at home or because they're having to stay disconnected from the people that they really care about. So talk to them. What are they feeling? What are they experiencing? What are some ways that maybe you could build a bridge between the ways they used to connect in the past and the ways that they would really like to connect in the future? Another might be kind of recognizing that your child's needs are different than your own needs. We're notorious for being what I refer to sometimes as like projection machines, right? We sort of take what we feel, what we think, what we need, and we put it onto other people, and then we interact with them as if that's their need as well. So part of this might be in asking the questions about what their needs really are, is it's disconnecting your projections in terms of what they might really need. Some kids really don't need a lot of connection with others, and then some kids just need significant amounts of connection with others. So beware. I have 3 sons. They all are different in this regard. One of them's more of a homebody. The other one's more of a, loves to be out and about, and the other one's probably somewhere in between. I'm probably somewhere in between, and so it's easy for me to think, why are you spending so much time at home? So it's important for you to kind of recognize their needs versus yours. Maybe share some of your age-appropriate experiences right now relative to your experience with friends. I know for me, this has been a tough time. It's been difficult to spend spontaneous times with friends, dinners with other couples that we would normally spend time with other families that we'd spend time with. And I've really found that this has been kind of a lonely time. And so if that's been the case for you, maybe be able to talk about what you've done to kind of attend to that lonely part inside. Help facilitate what I would think of as sort of age-specific connections, right? So if you have really young kids, this might look very different than if you have younger children or middle-aged children or young adults. But what I would encourage you to think about is how do you help them connect in a way that feels appropriate for them? Whether that's using FaceTime to connect with grandma or grandpa, this is probably something you're already commonly doing as well. Using some of the technology that we have available to us that allows this kind of connection that facilitates friendship, or at least facilitates the kind of connection that may grow friendships in the future, but use technology. I've been surprised. One of my sons has been really interested in writing letters, and so he's taken this time to write letters. And I thought, I received a letter from an elderly aunt of mine. It was such a blessing to me, and I wrote a letter to her. It was such a blessing, I think, for her as she kind of contacted me later, because we don't do that anymore. So what does it look like for your children to write a letter to their grandparent, write a letter to their aunts and uncles or to their friends, using whatever technology is available to you? What does it look like to sort of do social distance walks with friends? You need to make that determination on your own, because I know some of you are maybe more anxious or not about that. So maybe we'll take a pause right here, spend a few moments just talking with each other or thinking through the types or the ways in which you'd like to facilitate kind of connection between your children and their friends. And then lastly, this is a great temptation for parents. It's a great temptation for people. It's a great temptation for my students that I have to sort of encourage them to avoid. And that is, resist the tendency to just want to fix this whole situation for your kids. Because a lot of this you can't fix, right? You can do some things to help facilitate connection between them and their peers. But at the end of the day, there's a lot that's out of control, sort of physically, culturally, medically. And so what I'd really encourage you to do is just to be mindful of the need to listen and listen thoroughly before you kind of jump in to find solutions. Because a lot of times, even relatively young kids, as much as they want their situations to get fixed, what they really want is for you to hear them. What they really want is for you to understand what they're going through. And so my encouragement to you would be, spend the time to just listen before you try to fix their situation, and I think it will benefit both of you.